Overrated.
Happy Monday, let me tell you.
Indeed. But I'm on break. I'm on winter break.
I'm very jealous.
It's nice.
I'm very jealous for you.
Of course, I had nothing to do all day today until a student finally messaged me back at like 3:15. Like, okay, I can meet right now. I mean, okay.
I mean, it's better than nothing, right?
It is.
I don't like that. But I don't like that.
Hmm. Is there an in the middle? I don't know if I like that.
I don't think I like that.
It's, it's too much background space.
Yeah,
Too much space with nothing going on.
I know. But then I wish I could just make us. Oh, I could. I guess I could do this. Ooh. Okay. Well, hold on. Now we're getting somewhere because then I could do this.
Okay.
I
All
don't.
right.
I don't. But that does cover.
Yeah, now it feels like too much.
Perfect. Don't ask me why this is how it worked. There you go. How's that? You get to you get to be the more.
Yeah, I'm the girthier one now.
We'll just do that.
That's perfect.
Or I'll just hang out on the side like this.
Wow.
This is
It's crazy how much effort goes into creating options that no one would ever need.
there's very few reasons that this would be needed.
Very few.
I mean, like if you were a presentation of something.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we were both on the side and this was a presentation.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can just do this.
I think we'll live with it.
I'm just not loving the
good. Keith's here.
crap in the background. I'm sorry you don't have a party hat, but it's okay. We appreciate it nonetheless.
Indeed. Were we supposed to have party hats?
No, but it's a seminal episode, as you mentioned last episode.
That's true. Yeah, there will be lots of semen involved. Because we're talking about the Navy.
It might as well be. We might as well be at this point. All right. Let me look. Let me just get one quick. Oh, there's no way. There's no way. All right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, there's definitely no way.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, well, we should start then. Hey, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Damn it.
There's nothing to do.
Oh, man.
There's just
The
no
anticipation I felt wondering what you were going to do to start this.
I mean, what? The baggage claim. Like,
You didn't get the name in there anywhere, though.
you're right.
I mean, you have one job when you're imitating the songs.
How do you know, though? How do you know that that wasn't part of the message, the subliminal part of it?
I don't know.
And
I
you
don't
never
know
will.
that.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Totem Talks. This is season 8, episode 21. And we are officially exploring the outer reaches of deep space.
Cool.
Or music, depending on what you want to be a part of.
Agreed.
Oh, man. Nick, I mentioned this off air, but I'm going to mention it again.
Sure, please.
An interesting week to test the limits of our formula.
It is. It's an interesting week for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, we'll get to all the other reasons, but it's an interesting week specifically to judge and our formula and all of those things. But before we get into all that, how you doing today?
Not bad. Normally, I like to pass from this question, but I am on break right now, so.
Good. Just had to, within 5 minutes, just rub it in a second time.
I have to make sure in case you need me for anything over the next 2 weeks.
And I will need you for many things. All right. With that all being said, that's Nick. I'm Pat. We're Totem Talks. We're hanging out. We are tasked with a mission hitherto unrealized, which is to determine the greatest musical artist act being of all time. And we have scoured far and wide, and we will continue to do so.
I love to scour.
Yes, we are scour kings in
That's
this
right.
podcast. Now, the real question, as always, that I will pose to you, Nick, did we find the greatest musical artist of all time today?
Probably not, but there are at least very interesting things to discuss with each of them. I think we did find maybe the greatest musical artists of two different genres of all time.
I mean, there's a chance.
Like, that's at least a discussion.
Yeah, and
So, I mean, like,
well,
in a way, both of the artists we're going to talk about today are sort of like the most important in the movement that they were in.
I have great news for you. If you're looking for a discussion, you came to quite literally the best place.
Mhm.
It's a place entirely dedicated to discussing these two artists right now. I
That's true.
If you see me gesture with this hand again, yell at me, please,
Okay.
because it hurts and I keep doing it. 'Cause
Oh,
I'm
yeah, right,
stronger.
because you right.
Yeah,
Understood.
just so we're clear, you and I.
Yeah,
That's some behind the scenes stuff. All you
that's
listeners,
they'll
all you
never
lovely,
understand.
lovely listeners, and by that I mean Keith.
Keith. Well, the
Now, Nick,
time has come.
yeah, please enlighten us as to which artists we are choosing to cover today.
Of course. We are kicking things off with, the father of ambient music, Brian Eno,
Yes,
and then we are following him up with one of possibly the creator of classical minimalism, Terry Riley.
yes. Now,
So,
before we get into Mr. Eno, I just want to be clear to anybody who's like, what words did you just say? This is an episode, which we have a few of,
mhm.
which I would call like the four musicians episode. Both of these artists, and I think, Nick, I think you'll agree, are probably more appreciated by musicians, musical inclined people, rather.
100%.
Yeah. This is like, this is the deep lore of music. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's definitely probably some of our less approachable genres that we'll cover.
These are two artists who most people would probably not know anything about, but in the right pond, like, they are such big fish that there's not even room for them.
Yeah, I totally understand. Totally fair. Now, without any other further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started here with Brian Peter George Eno. It's a lot of names,
That's a
too
lot of
many, if
names.
you ask me. But Brian Peter George Eno is an English musician, songwriter, record producer, visual artist, and also an activist, which we'll discuss a little bit later. So Brian Eno was active from 1970, and he's still active today. So good old career out of Mr. Eno. We covered 3 albums. We started with 1974's "Here Come the Warm Jets." We followed that up with 1983's "Apollo: Atmospheres and Soundtracks." And then we wrapped things up with 2022's "Forever and Ever No More." And we'll get started here. I'll get started with "Here Come the Warm Jets." Now, right off the jump for me, I knew a little bit about Brian Eno. I've heard some stuff from him. None of the albums we covered. There's one album that we didn't cover that is just a little bit of a. I'm surprised we didn't cover it. That I've heard a
Yeah,
little bit from, mostly I think at your
probably for me.
recommendation a few years ago. But either way, I had a thought in my head of what to expect. This was not that at all, because this is not like atmospheric music. This is like an avant-garde experimental pop album with like a little bit of rock thrown in, a little bit of maybe art rock.
A little
It's
glammy.
a little glammy at times. It is a hodgepodge of stylings. And I think you get some good and some bad for me. The good you get is you're starting to realize, like, do you ever have a conversation with somebody?
No.
God damn it. Did you ever have a conversation with somebody and about 10 seconds into the conversation you're like, this person is thinking about this subject on a level that I will never grasp?
Sure.
Right, like, that is how I feel listening to this, where I'm like, clearly this dude's relationship with music is on a level that I will not understand. It's like, and that's fine.
Mhm.
It's still, there's still parts of it that sound good. There's still parts of it that are interesting. I feel like when you delve into the like avant-garde world, it is so easy for the music to sound like shit.
It can for sure.
It can absolutely, and like, whether that's artistic or not is up for interpretation. All music is interpreted differently, especially when you get into the avant-garde experimental range. I don't think any of these songs sounded like shit. I don't think they were, overly chaotic. I thought they were fine. The one like real lackluster thing, although because it's the first album I listened to, I look back fondly on the it in comparison. The vocals were very lacking. However, considering out of the 6 albums we listened to, there is limited vocals,
Very limited.
very limited vocals, and I think only on Brian Eno's side of the fence here,
Well, depends.
for the most part.
Depends on
We
what you mean by vocals.
Yeah, and that's a great point, but we'll get there. All that to say, like, you instantly have to put yourself in a different space, I think, than a prototypical music album listen, because
Mhm.
this is kind of not that. Although it's the closest we got
Right.
this entire episode.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. We can talk, I'll let you talk a little bit about maybe some specifics that you felt. For me, I thought that this was clearly a man breaking away from a previous group. Not
Mhm.
necessarily in a bad way, but like, the style is similar to his former group Roxy Music, but a clear jump off into another land, which he clearly splashes in. We'll talk. We'll get there, but
Mhm.
an enjoyable listen. Definitely not my personal vibe.
Sure.
But you can hear a ton of like creativity involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity and it's very interesting. It's definitely very experimental pop rock music with definitely some glam. The tracks themselves, if you stripped away all the vocals and I had no context whatsoever, and you're just like, hey, here are the instrumental backing tracks for an album with vocals. Which artist from the late 60s, early 70s do you think could have sung on this? My first guess would have been David Bowie. So if that's any sort of context for like the art pop rockiness of it, like it definitely had a Bowie feel to it.
Sure.
But as you mentioned, the vocals are significantly worse um, than what you would get with Bowie. But the songs are all interesting, like again, it's of the types of music he's known for. It's less what I'm into. But there were good songs on here. I was, like, kind of intrigued by a lot of the record. I thought "Cindy Tells Me" was a good song on the A side. I really liked, "On Some Faraway Beach," and, some of them are old. Like, there were good tracks for
Yeah.
sure. Um, and then I'll move on into the era of ambient music with Apollo atmospheres and soundtracks. And I don't know if this is the first time I've listened to this album. I've listened to all of, like, the ambient series before and a bunch of his records like that, so I've probably heard this one before, although I couldn't remember. And I really liked it. It was maybe my favorite album of the week. And I think the main reason for that is, you know, the title, it's Apollo. You look at the cover art of the moon, and I think the atmosphere he created from beginning to end really perfectly, like, you could close your eyes and listen to this, and I think, like, traveling through space and going up to the moon and then, like, looking back down on, like, on Earth as an astronaut up, all of that came through really clearly for me. Like, I fully got the story, just in these, like, very subtly orchestrated pieces, and then it sort of breaks out. You go through, like, the first 7, or let me see, yeah, I bet it's the first 7 tracks that are really, like, heavily ambient, and then when you get to, Silver Morning, all of a sudden, the instrumentation starts to get a little bit more forward and complex and consistent, and it feels like, "Whoa," now you're having this, like, epiphany, and you're, like, looking back down onto the earth as that portion of it, and the music feels a little bit more intense before, by the last track, it kind of slips back into that ambient feel. So I feel like you get a really great experience from this record, um, and I really enjoy it.
Cool. All right. Listen, I'm want to be clear. I'm not disagreeing, but what I want to try to do is talk to, again, the more average music listener. This album is not music. It's
It
not.
definitely is.
No, 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 no. Listen to me. Listen to me.
I mean, even I will argue, I know the point you're about to make, but I think, like, Silver Morning, Deep Blue Day, Weightless, anyone will listen to and still think music.
Sure. Sure.
Like, there's a stretch where I said where it kinda gets big and,
Yeah,
you know.
I get it. And I won't even disagree with you there, but I definitely think that if you go into this album expecting, well, I listen to music, like I like the Beatles and I like, whatever,
Well,
Cardi
that's very
B
different.
or the Beatles and Cardi B, two similar artists, first off. But second off, if you're expecting standard music, that you will be disappointed. It is not that. It is a different animal entirely. It's not bad. I get what you're saying because I felt similar. Like you can put yourself in that headspace and like listen through the story as it's progressing. But it's not something that you can just sit there and like listen to the same way you would listen to like any other standard rock and roll album, country,
Yeah,
whatever genre. I'm just trying to explain that it's a completely different animal.
it definitely is.
So all that being said, I think it's done very well. I think the atmosphere that's created is, you know, intriguing and it's interesting and it creates the ebbs and flows of the journey. And it was an enjoyable listen all the way through. I'm trying to temper people's like knowledge of this. Like you're not like if I'm like, "Oh, I really loved it," and you like the way you described it, if I'm like, "Oh yeah, it was really great." And then somebody goes and listens, they're like, "What the fuck is that?
Yeah,
What are you
right
what
on.
is happening?" It's different. It's completely different. It's it's ambient. I mean,
It
it's
is.
literally it's meant to be like kind of like a soundtrack to an event is what
Mhm.
it is the way that my brain processes it at least.
Sure.
So I think it's done well. Obviously, there's a reason he's known for this.
Mhm.
It's done well and it's enjoyable. It's going to be interesting, I think, to grade just based on this in comparison.
Yeah.
So I'm actually like a little excited, especially once we cover your artist as well, to like get to grading because like yes, comparing them to each other is going to be interesting. But also I think this album in particular, like we're going to get to a point where we're comparing them to like other artists we've covered.
Right.
And how is that going to happen? So
Yeah, it's interesting. We're
it's
really on the outer limits of what we do.
yes. But I'm going to take us into Forever and Ever No More. So we are arguably kind of in the middle of the first two albums here, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
We're still in that, like, there's some soundscapes happening, there's some uh alternative instrumentation happening, we'll
We're a
say.
lot closer to the second album, but we are in the middle of them.
Yeah, we're a lot closer to the second. Yeah, exactly. Well put. We're a lot closer to that, like, full ambient sound, but there is, like, some vocal lines that happen. There's vocals in multiples of these songs. Uh, they are of a similar quality to the first album. Like, they're fine. They're
Interesting.
they're not good, but they're not bad.
I thought that they were like noticeably better than they were on the first album,
Sure. Okay.
which is like a crazy note to have for an artist whose first album came out in 1974.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about his 2022 release. And I was like, oh,
Well, it's not
yeah,
like
the
he's cooking his
vocals.
voice, dude. He doesn't sing in 80
True. But
stuff.
but still, to be 48 years older does something to your voice.
I agree.
That was like my biggest note was like, I can't believe that I like the vocals a lot more on this album, considering it's 48 years older or came 48 years later.
Comparing it to itself, I'm fully with you. I am just very incapable of comparing and forgetting that other vocalists have ever existed,
Mhm.
which is what I would kind of need to do to be like, I really liked the vocals on that album.
Sure.
Because, like, yes, Brian Eno's vocals sounded better in Forever and Ever No More than they did in Here Come the Warm Jets. I agree with you there. But, like, also, I did just mention the Beatles earlier. They exist.
They do.
And, like, Elton John exists and Hosier exists, just to name crazy genres all over the place.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's tough for me to really go all the way.
Yeah,
But I'm also I'm a stickler for vocals. You know that,
I do.
which is why you gave me 4 out of 6 that have no vocals.
That's my main reason. Yes.
But no, like, it was good. It was very evident to me that the creative juices are still fully flowing, which is less and less common, especially as we go. We've seen a lot of artists where they've just clearly tapped the well dry, and there's just retreads or rehashes or over studio involvement because they're just like, they can't be asked to write it themselves.
Mhm.
So, like, we've seen all of that in our journey here so far. This is none of that. It's still clearly a creative process through and through for Brian Eno, and it's enjoyable as long as you put yourself in the right headspace.
Yeah.
I'll say, if you are a person who struggles with intense periods of concentration without any distraction,
So everyone under the age of 30
which
and
you're
most
correct.
people over the age of 30.
I'm just gonna say these albums are gonna be tough for you. They're gonna
Yeah.
be tough. You might need to take some breaks
Sure.
because this is music where it's gonna be so easy to just passively listen your way through this. It's
And I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to it passively either, if it's like a nice atmosphere for you in the background.
No, I mentioned this to my wife when we were talking. You know her, but other people don't.
That's true.
But I was talking to her about it, and I said, like, these albums, more so your artist albums, but definitely at least the second Eno album, because I'll listen to these, like, maybe while I'm reading.
And
I
I
don't,
do all the time.
yeah. See, I don't like to listen to vocal music when I read because I
No.
instantly lock into the vocals and
Yeah.
I'm singing along.
100%.
Did you know that some people can do that?
I don't know how.
It's
I
weird,
have to
right?
have
Okay.
instrumental music, and like something ambient is particularly good.
Yeah.
Or something
I
that's
mean, I
slow.
typically skew classical, but
Yeah, I do.
like, this would fill that. This would scratch that itch for me of, like, I could throw these on while I'm reading a book and enjoy them.
Totally.
But if you're, say, I don't know, hypothetically, doing a podcast on these albums and you need to actively listen to all 6 of them,
Hmm.
you might struggle a little bit. I just
That's
want
fair.
to forewarn you all.
That's fair. I also enjoyed this last album. I mean, my main notes were like kind of comparing it to where he was in between the other two and
Yeah.
commenting on the change of vocals. Apparently, and this was done in the vocal parts, and I know you're a big lyric guy. The album was about his concerns for the future, from an quote environmental and geopolitical standpoint, with a particular focus on the climate crisis and the prospect of humankind's demise. And I'll tell you, Brian, I have all the same concerns. I think about them all the time. But I did not necessarily in the same way that I strongly got like going into space and like the Apollo message was so clear on Apollo. I don't know that even with some lyrics that I fully got that message. And that just could be because I'm an idiot. But I agree with it. It's a great message. I'm with you.
It is a great message. The one I also agree with, obviously. Interesting because
Yeah, I
I
wanted
could
to.
see that. I could see it, and I don't know. I don't know.
I was definitely curious to see if you picked up on that at all.
I
Uh,
I really didn't, which is
no.
weird. But hey, good for you. I mean, good for you. Good
Yeah,
for you.
right. I'm fully on board with it. You coming back into vocal music specifically because you're concerned about very concerning things. Um, that's
I
cool.
get
But
it.
I like the album. Again, I thought the vocals were noticeably better, which confounded me. And it could be just because it was a no vocal music week, and I don't listen to a ton of vocal music during the week myself, regardless. That I just heard something that wasn't that first album and went, huh, how about that? um,
It's it is like a drop of water in the desert when you're
mhm.
getting no vocal music. So, and of course, right now, because of the time of year, 80% of the vocal music I'm listening to, other than podcasts right now, is of a holiday variety, which is like,
You
you know,
know,
the same old
usually,
songs recorded a thousand
yeah,
times.
exactly, which is so annoying. And I haven't really heard much of it at all. But normally I dig into like the holiday jazz albums by now, and I've totally forgotten other than Vince Guaraldi Trio. And you gotta go Vince Guaraldi Trio.
I, one thing that we
You
like,
better not be about to disagree.
no, I'm not about to disagree.
Okay, good,
But
because
I'm
Vince
saying
Guaraldi fucking kills it.
one of the things that we do is, which is similar, but it's less focused, is YouTube has these like multi-hour long like fireplace aesthetics that they'll be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
playing some of that instrumental holiday jazz. And we like to throw that on when we're like either decorating or
Sure,
like
yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. So we did that a little bit, but and
I
then
will also listen to Ray Charles's Christmas album because I love Ray.
few artists get a full album listen for Christmas. Ray Charles is on that list. Uh, Buble is on that list for me,
Mhm.
just because I think he is maybe the last crooner.
We'll see.
I mean, there's nobody younger that I can see breaking the scene right now. Is he the last crooner, or will he be,
We'll
or
find out.
will somebody else
Time will tell.
revitalize it? That's a fun side episode we could talk about one day.
Yeah,
But
like the last crooner, the last like stadium guitar god who people come out to see.
mm,
Probably John Mayer that fills stadiums
it
for
could be.
guitar
I mean,
prowess.
I can't think of another one again.
Because there are plenty of other people out there who play like insanely, but to tiny audiences.
Yeah,
And I'm sure there are a lot of people who sing like a great Sinatra, but not to an audience like Buble.
right. Yeah, the end of the eras. We'll talk
Indeed.
about.
We've
Cool.
gone so far afield.
Oh yeah, we're talking about music, Nick. I guess I'll give you some facts about
Yes.
Brian Eno. So I was looking for the unique thing, and I was like, "What? I'm like, what? I mean, yeah, like a lot of the stuff isn't unique. He was in a band, he went solo, he changed genre completely, helped develop a new genre. That's all cool, but is it all unique? No, a lot of artists have done that. And then I found out that a man named Mark Bowie, as I believe I'm pronounced, or Bowie,
Okay.
In the year 2000, named an asteroid 81948 Eno. He named it after
Nice.
Brian Eno. It
Very
was
good.
like it was published. The official naming citation was published in 2019. So Brian Eno has an asteroid named after him officially,
Very good.
and I thought that was pretty damn unique. It's pretty cool because I don't think we've covered another artist with an asteroid named after them.
That's I don't know if I would count on that, but
I just said I
carry
don't
on.
know. I didn't say
Yeah.
we didn't. I said I don't know. Are you looking up asteroids right
Yes,
now?
you
Okay,
continue.
let me know. So the highlight again, trying to limit it to his solo career was very difficult. Brian Eno is a well-known musician in certain spaces, has not really achieved global success in terms of record sales because this is a genre of music that is, I would say, less approachable to the average listener.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to give his highlight to the fact that he is a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Roxy Music. He was inducted in 2019, which also just kind of make 2019 his highlight year because he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and had an asteroid named after him. That's a pretty good year. It's better than
That's a
my
pretty good year.
2019 was.
That's fair. That's fair. I can tell you, by the way, that all four of the Beatles have an asteroid named after
The
them.
Beatles, though, come on.
Carlos Santana has one named after him, and Buddy Holly has one named after him, and we've covered all of them.
Well, did Mark Bowie did he find all of those asteroids in the year 2000?
It's a great question,
So,
and
I mean, unless you have those
trying
answers, I'm
out.
still going to say that's a unique fact.
You're right. It's still unique.
I stand by it.
Look, I think we need to understand the word unique in the same way that we understand the word literally, and that sometimes it means its original definition, and sometimes it means it's something that's like fairly original, but maybe like a handful of people have
Yeah,
done. It doesn't have to be like very specifically only one.
I'll accept that definition because it benefits me in this
Yeah, of
case.
course.
All right, so highlights and lowlights. I didn't really find a big lowlight for him. I mean, I guess you could say that he was divorced in the 1980s. He got married to, I'm assuming, a high school sweetheart at the age of 18. They had a daughter and then got divorced and then he got married again. So, and then I believe divorced again or rumored to be separated and or divorced
Okay.
again is kind of the vibe. There wasn't really a ton of public information, which I'm fine with. I
Yeah.
couldn't care less, to be quite frankly. Personal lives are personal lives, but could be lowlights. Meanest and nicest. Meanest didn't really have anything. Seems fine. Didn't see any big scandals. Didn't see any horrific events or anything like that, which just so many artists have. I mean, it's exhausting.
It can be.
It's truly exhausting sometimes to be like, all right, time to do my research. And oh my God.
Oh,
And
that's not going to be fun.
right. So didn't really have anything like that. In terms of like nice things, and as we kind of mentioned a little bit talking about Forever and Ever No More, Brian Eno is an extremely politically active person, really into supporting his causes, both good or ill, for, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, which really shouldn't matter. But, I support people supporting their political causes in positive ways, is what I'll say. I think that's a fine thing to say, right?
I think it's a fine thing to say. I don't know if I fully agree with it because there are plenty of ways around that.
Oh, well, I'm saying if you're going to, even if I disagree with you politically,
Mhm.
if you engage in a positive way, I support that because I think
Yeah, I
so
guess
often,
yeah, I think it just means what you're doing to participate. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
but I think that's where it could be negative. Like there are some people where it's like if I disagree with you politically, you're the devil. Either
Mhm.
way, either side of the aisle, you're the devil. And it's like, yeah, sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's true. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But sometimes it's not. And I think it's, so if you're engaging in politics in a positive way, I support you. But also like maybe don't be a Nazi.
Yeah, see, that was the thing. That was the thing. I was like, there's a big difference between we have a disagreement over a few percentage points on what the top marginal tax rate should be
Yeah.
versus like you don't think certain groups of people are people. In which
I
case,
don't
I
think
don't think there's a
that
good way to engage in that.
right. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
positive way to
Yeah.
engage in that.
No.
I don't think that's a possibility to be positive in that instance. So,
Fair enough.
that's my point on that. But
Excellent.
all that to say, Brian Eno, largely politically active. One of the ones I wanted to highlight because it is very culturally relevant right now. In 2006, he was one of more than 100 artists and writers who signed a letter calling for a boycott of the Israeli political and cultural institutions, specifically about the military action in Gaza.
Well, thank goodness we've gotten past all that.
Which we obviously have not, and it's still a hot
You could
button
be
topic
listening to
today.
this 100 years from now,
And
and we still have not.
I know 100%, but it's refreshing, even though it's depressing that it's still going on today. It's refreshing that we're talking about somebody who recognized the issue 20 years ago and was one of the people actively speaking out against it 20 years ago. And
Right.
it just still hasn't borne fruit. But, that is a feather in the cap of Brian Eno, as far as I'm concerned. And you can read, I'm not going to read his entire political activism section of his wiki page. That's something that you're more than welcome to do on your own time.
Thank
But
you.
there's a lot of things in a similar vein to him, or in a similar vein to that he has done, supporting various causes, supporting candidates. One of the ones that he did, he supported Jeremy Corbyn of the Labour
Not
Party.
surprised.
But the specific quote is what leads me to like politically active in a positive way. He viewed him as a quote beacon of hope in the struggle against the emergent far right nationalism, xenophobia, and racism. Seems
Glad
like
we solved all that.
and that was also in 2019, also in his highlight year.
Yeah,
So Brian Eno had a great 2019.
good for him.
And then 6 Degrees, I was looking at it. Uh, Clearly, the man has had his hand in the pots of the music world, and there's a lot of connections. But really, look no further than Here Come the Warm Jets,
Mhm.
because on Here Come the Warm Jets, there's multiple artists that we have covered, including Robert Fripp from
Right,
King
King
Crimson,
Crimson. Is
and
John Wetton on that as well?
John
Yeah,
Wetton, also from King Crimson, and Uriah Heep. So good old
that's true.
Uriah Heep reference. We did Talking Heads, right?
Yup,
So Busta Jones was on this album as well, which was at times involved in the studio for Talking
and
Heads.
Eno would obviously go on to work with David Byrne on several things, so
Yeah, which vocally makes sense to me. Uh, no shade at David Byrne, but I can't stand that dude's vocals. Sorry, my opinion has not changed.
understood.
I truly think, Nick, like the more I think about it, I think David Byrne to me is Bruce Springsteen to you.
Totally get it.
Yeah, where it's
Totally
like
get it.
just the vocals are nails on a chalkboard to me.
Yep,
And that's really all I got. I got,
excellent,
a little bit of stuff and we're moving on.
excellent. Well, let's jump into Terry Riley then, in a non-literal sense.
Nope, I'm already jumping.
Well, he's 90, be careful, goddammit.
Well, don't tell me what to do then, because I listen.
I'm good if you don't wanna break in between. I am ready to
Uh,
go.
I'm also ready to roll. Let's
Excellent.
roll. All right. Terrence Mitchell Riley is an American composer and performing musician best known as a pioneer of the minimalist school of composition, who has been active from the 1950s until the present day. We covered 3 albums from Mr. Riley. We started with Music for the Gift from 1963. We followed that up with 1968's In C, and then we closed it out with Organum for Stefano from 2022.
Yes. And I will begin
You
with
should.
music for the gift. So I gave you some like pre-game preparatory suggestions for NC. I did not do that for music for the gift, but there's a lot to understand this album. So he recorded it in France, and he was working with a combination of words and sounds recorded from, I guess, like the actors and dancers from a French production of a play called The Gift. And in addition to that, Chet Baker, the all time great jazz trumpeter, was there in France with his band. And Terry Riley recorded them like each instrument individually doing a rendition of Miles Davis's tune So What? And so all of the pieces for this album were based on like the sounds and words from these actors and dancers, as well as these separated and broke up different recordings of different instrumentalists playing a song, a jazz standard together, but pulled apart. And also, most of his tapes for this were destroyed by one of the actors on the final night of recording everything. And so most of what he had was actually lost to time. And then what he put together is considered by many people perhaps the first ever remix album, as he like creates avant-garde compositions out of all of these different tracks, where he's like slowing or speeding down or putting repeats and loops as he's like playing these different tapes against each other, um, from the Chet Baker's band. And so the first part of this album, that's called The Gift, is all based on Chet and his band, and the different manipulations he does with like time lags and looping effects, putting their parts up against each other, which is also kind of an important thing because this is one of, if not the first ever experiment with tape looping in music, which goes on to become much more important later on, and using like delay effects, which also becomes much more important later on for like everybody. Um, and then a lot of the other a lot of the other songs that come after that were mostly from the actors and dancers and their words and stuff. Mescaline Mix, I thought, was particularly well named, as feeling like a mescaline trip. Probably would feel. I'd have to ask Hunter S. Thompson, I guess. Um, Overall, this is not necessarily like, if Pat was preparing you for albums that are not sonically pleasing before, this takes that to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Um, with the context of it, I think it's an interesting piece of history. I can see how his experimentation here ends up becoming very, very important and influences what he does going forward. And there's a lot of Terry Riley's compositions that I like. This is not an album that I would necessarily revisit, though.
Okay. That was Nick, the teacher's response to this album.
Yeah, did it help you to understand it all the things that I just explained?
Yeah. And it helped because here's what put. I put one note and I put, this is like if you did good in math and then got thrown into an advanced calculus course. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
Somebody, because like I am not a like super deep diver into music theory. I recognize surface level music theory. I know how to read music. I am able to do those things. I can grasp certain concepts of music, like, and a lot of it I can kind of do without being able to verbalize it. Like, when we've, how we can like lock in on harmonies and like we can pick shit
Yeah.
out like that. Like, a lot of that stuff is almost subconscious at this point for me. And I feel good about that. That's something that I can do that we've done together. And then this would be like if I was talking to a rocket scientist, because that's what it feels like. Where it's like you know, it's nuts the stuff that's going on in this. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's what I when I said that Eno's stuff did not sound super chaotic, and I thought that was interesting because I know a lot of avant-garde stuff can, even though this is technically more like minimalist than avant-garde. It's
Right.
it's it's different. This is chaotic as shit. This is
Totally.
wild stuff. It all also all the stuff you just said reminded me of like the fun fact that people like to throw out where we sent people to the moon with the computing power that your phone does like 10 times more computing power per second than
Right. Yeah.
all of the stuff. Like, that's what this feels like. This man was looping tape and re-recording and running stuff, and right now I could push a button on this over here and do twice what he did,
Yeah.
which just goes to show you the creativity that went into it.
Right, exactly, and,
It's
like, you only have those things because he
because he started.
experimented all this time
Yeah,
ago, yeah.
100%. All of that is completely, I respect the hell out of it. It is not an album. It like I wouldn't listen to this album again the same way I wouldn't just go read a textbook, is what it feels like to me.
Sure.
It's clearly important and it clearly dictates, a future of some kind, an education in some way. But like I'm not just gonna go casually read my science textbook from high school. Is what
Yeah, I get that.
That's what it feels like. And I'll take us into NC, which I'm not going to get into the specifics of because
I'll
I
explain that
want you
yeah.
to, because it's your artist, and I know you're quite frankly more excited to talk about it than me. And I
Yeah,
don't mean that in a, like I'm not
yeah,
unexcited, but
right. I just wanna be clear that to have consistency here, we each listened to a recording from 1968, from the Creative Arts Department at, SNNY Buffalo, so the State University of New York, Buffalo, that
yes, Nick sent me the album, so we were locked in.
so there are dozens and dozens of recordings of NC. If you want to know which one we're commenting on, it's that one.
Yeah. And without getting too deep into the context, this is even more just absolute chaos made music. And even less than, again, Brian Eno's second album, could it be called music? The one thing that I thought was interesting here with NC is the name NC implies, you know, probably either classical or jazz. Like typically, if you're just relating to a key, it's like, you're talking in those realms. Probably jazz more so than classical. Usually
Like the
there's like
space.
sonata in C or blah blah blah, whatever. But I was expecting to hear more jazz than I heard, because this
This is
is like,
definitely classical.
yeah, I was expecting to hear jazz based on the little I know of Terry Riley, and it felt like it would be jazz, and it just was not jazz, and it was, I guess, yeah, technically classical, but really it was a clusterfuck. Maybe that's what the C stands for.
Could be.
Um, but this piece, so like the first album was like reading a textbook, and like that's fine. This piece for me was like watching a football game. And by that I mean, if you get football, watching a football game is different than if you don't get football.
Yeah.
If you get music, this is a very interesting listen, because you're hearing things, and like Nick will describe a little more specifically, but you're hearing like repetitions and themes and motifs over and over and over again in different chaotic ways. And like to the average listener, it would just sound like a
Cacophonous.
yeah, like a New York City street. But if you can kind of read through that a little bit, it's maybe the most interesting album we listened to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it is. So I'm going to explain what it is.
Yeah.
And the reason why I specifically mentioned the version we listened to is because there are no two recordings of this album that are the same, and that is very intentional, and that's how he wrote it. So the concept is incredibly original. Essentially, he has, I believe it's 53 different measures or like riffs, you could think of them as, and there's no set musicians. There's no number of people that it has to be. There's no specific instruments that have to be in the piece. It starts with a piano playing octave Cs on the beat, and then the rest of the musicians, at their discretion, can begin to work through the 53 different riffs that they have at their disposal in order, coming in whatever order and timing that they feel benefits the song, and playing each measure as many times as they want before moving on to the next. So everyone is playing their own iteration of what's happening and coming in at different times and being on different parts of the music at different times, and it's never ever the same experience. And this kind of creates what can be a cacophony at times. But I think when you have good musicians who are doing this and listening to each other, a really great experiment in like tension and release as people build up kind of into an insane fervor at different points. And then at other points in the composition, it kind of relaxes and it falls back. And you can kind of go into a trance just hearing it. And then all of a sudden you hear something new, or one particular instrument came in, or somebody moved on to a different riff, and it like brought you back in. You're like, oh well, oh no, hold on, something new is happening, and then you can fall back into your trance, and then you jump out of it at different times throughout, and it's a fascinating piece. Like I can't think of anything else that we've ever covered that's quite like it in terms of its like flexibility and experimentation and like newness to like the science of music. It feels so incredibly original.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
fully with you on that.
Okay.
Also definitely meant to be under some type of psychedelic drug when you listen to it.
Well, uh, there's like a spiritual element to the music too. As Terry Riley was like, he had also traveled to India and studied Indian classical music, and that was a major influence on him.
Okay,
And
okay.
like the art of meditation and things like that were incredibly important to him. So this could be like the kind of thing that almost, like I mentioned, you kind of fall into a trance with it. Like that's a part of it. Having a spiritual experience with it is part of it for him,
It's like
I think.
music to make a satori. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay, so I will move on to Organum for Stefano. And we have gone very far into the future. It's 2022. I picked one of his later released albums. There's so much, it's hard to tell exactly what's new writing all the time with him and how many artists are like doing new iterations of his older pieces. Um, but I picked this one out because I was fairly certain that he wrote it recently, which is crazy because he's 90 years old and he's like still actively a musician and a very cool dude. Um, and I'm surprised that there were vocals on this album. Um, but when you do hear the vocals, and it's obviously like an 87-year-old man adding vocals into this, so take that with a grain of salt. But that's where you hear that like he went to India and studied classical Indian music, and like was a professor of classical Indian music, and was like very well esteemed in this stuff, because he does use those type of vocalizations um, from the classical Indian tradition in like conjunction with these more classically inspired organ pieces, which is it's a very interesting juxtaposition. Um,
Yes.
and and I do like a lot of his classical organ pieces a lot. Like I think he's a good composer. Um, and I think in this album too, the last thing I'll comment on about it is there does seem to be like a definitive spirituality about him and has his music. And like as a person who is in no way really spiritual, I think art is kind of the only thing that feels that way for me. I totally get that from his compositions.
Yeah, this does feel very much like almost like a portmanteau, like a fusion in a way of multiple genres. I think just the inclusion of an organ is such a vastly different sound, and like the way the piano sounds with the Eastern vocalizations, as you mentioned as well. It was very strange. It's arguably of the three albums we listened to by Terry Riley the most musical.
Sure. Yeah.
It's it feels the most composed, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Because it's not it I think this one was composed by him instead
Yeah.
of like an experimentation in technology or something that is composed live by the musicians as they are doing it uniquely and individually every time it's played,
Yeah,
you know?
100%. All that to say, it's from the from the music part of my brain, it's the best of the three for those
Mhm.
reasons. It's the most musical. It's got it's still got these interesting little nuggets of knowledge if you're willing to delve deeper, like you mentioned and like I picked up on as well, like the like Indian Eastern vocalizations over these organ and the way that it was done. There's no real like lyric and there's no real things like that, but like the stylization of it creates this interesting sound that kind of forces you to listen in a new way because your brain is naturally conditioned for things. Like there's a reason that if you like, and there's artists like Jacob Collier is one that does this, where like you manipulate your audience to like finish notes and phrases because they're so ingrained in your brain.
It's
Because it's
fascinating you use that example.
why you have something.
No, it's just it's we'll talk about it at the very end of the episode, I
Okay.
suppose.
Oh, okay, understood. But but like he's well known for that. If you
Mhm.
know who he is, and I'm
Watch his
sure
live
you've watched
performances.
his live stuff, even if you've seen it on shorts. Like it's what he does. He manipulates the audience in ways where he gets them to like sing and create these soundscapes, and it's because the music is so ingrained in us because we it's the music we listen to, and that's why music from like overseas will sound so like quote unquote foreign to us is because it's done and composed differently. So melding them together, I think, is a very interesting thing. And if you can do it well, it sounds really unique to the ear. And I think this is done really well for those reasons. I really enjoyed the listen. Again, you have to be in the right headspace. I want to be
Sure.
clear. But if you're in that headspace, this is a good spot to be.
Yes. All right. I will get into some Terry Riley facts. I couldn't find anything mean or nice about him. He seems like a very nice enough guy. Um, that's about that. I don't have anything negative to say about him. As far as uniqueness, I'm gonna say, I mean, his contributions to music, his style. Yeah, I mean, he is the pioneer of classical minimalism, but his music also includes influence from jazz and Indian classical and improvisation, and also effects like tape loop and delay that have become like pretty much standard in everyone who did music since, which I think is pretty cool. As far as highlight, I'd have to say it's like the fact that this year, as he has turned 90, There are still tons of different performances commemorating his work with lots of different classical orchestras. The Bang on a Can All Stars, who do a lot of cool versions of albums and pieces, their version is worth a listen of NC. They performed it to commemorate his 90th birthday. Pete Townsend was a part of a performance to commemorate his 90th birthday this year. So that's all very cool that he's still influential in those fields. His low light is, I mean, he's 90 years old. He has a heart condition. I don't know. That's all I could find. He currently has a heart condition, and we wish him well.
Yeah.
Um, he also, and I don't know if this is another unique addendum or a highlight, from one source that I could find, quoted that he has composed the most string quartets since Haydn, with his
Okay.
30 string quartets that he has composed, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I thought so. As far as 6 degrees go, uh, his biggest influence on, well, two of his biggest influences in the rock world are here. He played with John Cale and Angus McLeese from the Velvet Underground in the 60s and inspired them. And I think even maybe put out an album with John Cale at some point, who very much got into like this style of music. Second one is an homage from uh, a band that we haven't covered, but they're solo artists in the band that we have covered, and the person who like composed this part of the song is someone we have covered.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
told you I was going to give you kind of a fact that's like mind blowing initially, and then as soon as you comprehend it, you're like, well, oh shit, of course that makes so much sense. You're familiar with the all time classic rock anthem, Baba O'Reilly?
Yes, I would say that I.
And now hear the beginning of that song in
Yeah.
your head.
Yeah.
Oh, the Riley is a tribute to Terry O'Reilly. The song is titled after him.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
And you can hear the same thing on Won't Get Fooled Again when the Who started getting very into like the synthesizer minimalist parts that they would add into their songs. That was an homage and totally because of Terry O'Reilly.
And an example of
Terry
taking
Riley. I said O'Reilly because of
yeah,
Bob
because
O'Reilly.
Bob O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
It's a great example of taking these really out there concepts and putting them in a much more approachable way for the average listener. Same
Yeah.
way you see, there's like high concept math, and how does that affect you? Well, that high concept math is how your phone works. It's how
Right.
you're seeing us on the computer right now. Like it's that, but applied to music, and I like that.
Yeah.
That tickles my brain in a good way.
Mhm. Okay. I think that's everything. I think it's time for us to get grading.
Yeah, let's let's start. Oh, we've shrunk.
That's okay.
I'll,
We'll live.
I'll unshrink us.
Thank you. Cultural impacts. This one is going to be such an interesting set of scores. Um, I mean, we'll start with Eno
Yeah. Who
again, who created an entire genre of music. I mean, I'm pretty
which
sure he coined the term ambient, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you are correct. Now we have historically given those points an X factor.
We definitely will, but I mean, like, it's also if you
Part of
invent a genre of music, like that's just
Yeah, it's part of impact. I would agree.
for sure. Like, I mean, there's a reason why someone like a Fats Domino scores so highly on this for us because of everything that came after. Now, not everything that comes after Brian Eno is ambient and follows on that spirit, but it's definitely influential in a lot of different
Yeah,
genres of music.
the Fats Domino argument holds water on a smaller scale, and I'm with you there. Uh, the number of people that would directly cite as a source, or
Probably a lot.
as a source, or down that line is a lot. Uh, let's pick a threshold here.
Okay.
So first and foremost, I mentioned it as part of his highlight,
Mhm.
but I don't think it would be fair to other artists to give him the floor for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because he went in as a
He
member of
as
Rock.
Roxy Music, yeah.
So we're just for our formula, he's not starting with the floor of having a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because
Yeah,
if and
but
when
I
we
think
cover
he's
rock and roll
way
music,
above that 3-point threshold regardless.
I would agree. I just, for the sake of being fair, um, all that to say, we're basically just talking about influence here because he's not getting a ton of like daily fandom. He's not really touching the average listener. uh I'm not trying to sound overly negative. I'm just trying to put out the kind of devil's advocate things because
Sure,
obviously I know we're going to talk about the influence he's had on creatives and the music space and pushing those soundscapes forward and creating a genre. So there's a lot there, but there is also that other pillar of this where like he's not necessarily a household name. A lot of people have never heard of him. A
hmm
lot of people have no idea what he's contributed.
sure,
Or even if you said what he contributed, wouldn't be like, oh, like for instance, if I said for Fats Domino, like he was like one of the progenitors of this entire genre of like
mhm,
R&B and like moving that forward, everybody would be like, oh, cool. But if I was like, well, this guy created like ambient music, they'd be
sure.
like, what do you mean?
But so much of that is about the technology and the
Mhm.
studio, and like even if they're not directly use if Terry Riley is going to be very similar. Even if people aren't directly using his musical styles, they are using the techniques that he developed. That I mean, I could quote from the influence and legacy part of his Wikipedia. Eno is frequently referred to as one of popular music's most influential artists. Producer and film composer John Bryan says, "I think he's the most influential artist since the Beatles." Critic Jason Ankeny from All Music says, forever altered the ways in which music is approached, composed, performed, and perceived, and everything from punk to techno to new age bears his unmistakable influence.
All good points.
Yeah.
I
And also, he was inspired by Terry Riley.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
Uh Listen, all great. Again, not arguing for a low score here, just trying to keep the two of us honest
hmm
for our previous what gives points, what takes points. So balancing out a ton of influence with just no recognition outside of the space. The number has to be a little more reasonable. That like we're not talking like in the nines.
I was going to say 7.5.
I think I was also thinking in the low sevens. I could be talked up to a 7.5. I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Um, just to be clear for our formula for people,
Yeah.
if he had the recognition to go with it, we'd be talking a lot higher. There's a ton of influence there.
Sure. I mean, I think Terry Riley's argument is super similar. His name is probably less familiar to people than Brian Eno's, but like tape looping and delay and the things that he incorporated into the tech side of music are probably more recognizable to people even. And Riley is further back in the line of people who were experimenting in this way and influencing each other than Eno, because Eno does cite Riley as an influence.
Yeah, and he's 20 years younger than him.
Exactly.
Maybe not 20. Maybe
But
that's probably wrong.
yeah,
Maybe like 14.
sure. But like, there's no way I could give Terry Riley a lower number here because of what he has done for the techniques in music that have been used forever thereafter.
I understand.
And again, I know you're half of the argument, and I'm not even saying it has to be a higher number. I'm just saying it can't be a lower one.
Yeah, listen,
And
I
also,
get
like in the classical world too, like we're also talking like rock and pop. Like in the classical world, Terry Riley is one of the great composers of the 20th century. You know,
I'm
like
I'm with you. I'm fine also giving the 7.5. I just want us to, as long as we are understanding of the formula itself and that there has to be a part of this, like, there has to be a part of this that's recognition. and like the recognition has to leave the space. Like if we covered Van Gogh during his lifetime, the art was the same, but he'd be having a very different score.
For
Just
sure.
just things like that where it's like the the widespread recognition is not necessarily there, and that's been an established pillar that we use to create cultural impact.
Sure, but like, and like I said, like 100 years from now, if you're studying music at a university, if such things
You're going
still
to
exist
study.
100 years from now, Terry Riley will be in the textbook.
Yeah. And 100%. And for those reasons, he's both of them are vastly overperforming anybody else with their similar pedigree
Yeah.
other than their influence,
Right.
who would be getting point ones,
Right.
quite frankly, which is great jump for them.
Indeed. All right. I'm just gonna spoil Brian Eno. He has over 20 solo albums and over 20 collaborative albums with other artists. We're not gonna like individually cover every one of those or anything unless it was like a long time partnership with a band.
Yeah,
Where they're so to me, he's good for 50 albums. Terry Riley is very similar. There's so many classical compositions. Like I mentioned, he's composed over 30 string quartets, not even like going into all of the other types of music that he's composed. The answer is both of these guys are over the top threshold. They both start with a 6.7 in terms of albums
sure.
because that's the highest starting threshold that we allow for number.
Okay.
So,
Now, starting with me,
yeah,
I made a decision for how I'm scoring this. So, just quick refresh. I'm sure everybody who would listen to this knows this, but Nick and I each get a point 0.5 discretionary points to add or subtract from the score here at this point. Uh, I've decided that I'm judging both of these artists purely for this category on my listening enjoyment.
sure,
I feel like that's fair. I feel like we're good. We've spent almost every other category and we'll continue to spend every other category talking about contributions and influence and
for
technique.
sure.
But like pure musical enjoyment for Brian Eno, I'm taking away a point 0.1.
Okay. Well, we didn't talk about uh
Sales, there isn't it.
sales. That's the problem.
So, I mean, he has 2 British silvers
Right.
and none of his singles charted. That's
Right.
the big issue with them is like this is not a style of music that's approachable to the average
Right.
listener.
And
Not
frankly, I have no idea how to understand sales numbers for a lot of Riley stuff, especially in like a classical world where a lot of it is just like performed and people aren't buying albums as much as they are going to see performances of the
right.
music live.
This is
um,
but like I mentioned at the beginning, both of these artists absolutely push the limits of the box for where we're grading.
right. So what do we take away for sales? I mean, that's
I mean, formulaically, we're supposed to take away zero point 0.5.
I think for Eno it's 4 because he has the 2 British
He has
gold
the 2 silvers. So
or silvers, yeah.
point 0.4 for Eno and then zero point
Okay.
0.5 for Riley. It's just fair. You know, again, I think even though we're going to end up giving them a lower score than we would maybe like because of their influence, I think it makes sense because we're comparing them against a lot of people who, quite frankly, are more pleasant to listen to.
Mhm.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
These two gentlemen have both vastly contributed to the future of music and in wonderful ways that we're very appreciative of. But you know, it's like I wouldn't name Albert Einstein the sexiest man alive. It's just
Well, it's the difference between you and I. The only reason I wouldn't name him that is because he is, of course, let me check, dead. Uh,
I don't think you checked. You didn't look
I
like.
didn't check. You're right. Um,
Regardless, I think that's fair. I'm
yeah,
taking 0.1
I
because
gave him 0.2.
that's fine.
So there
It
it
is
is.
what it is.
And then Terry Riley. So 6.2 is where he's at now after losing the sales. I'm going to give him 0.3.
I'm going to leave him the same. I thought that the cacophony of the first and third were there. However, the interest of that third album mixed with the like listening interest. I was intrigued while listening to both of these.
Right.
But basically I took away point one for Brian Eno because I just didn't dig the vocals.
Sure.
Which is rare. It's very rare. This might be a first on the podcast where I'm literally saying I probably wouldn't have taken away points if you just didn't sing it all, dude.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
is crazy because normally I am thirsting for vocals,
Hmm.
and maybe I still am, but
Indeed. I I think that instrumental talent is a more discriminating space here.
yeah,
Because
it's the
here's the
true
deal.
stuff.
We're gonna give all the flowers to the invention of ambient music and Eno's ear for atmosphere and everything when it comes to songwriting talent. But when it comes to pure ability on your instrument, it doesn't require the same thing that Riley's pieces do. And to be fair, and I mean, Terry Riley is like a music professor who's like a very accomplished classical pianist, and like an excellent musician who then, like created all these different compositions
Right.
with improvisation and experimentation in mind. Eno was not like, you know, a classically trained musician who was
No.
like, so Terry Riley is the better musician here. I have to, I got to give
Yeah.
him props
I
there.
mean, again, the question just becomes we're marking them against each other, but we're also marking them against like our preset averages
Right.
that we've covered through years. Now, where would they fall on that? Brian Eno
I think
has
it has to be below,
has contributed a lot in terms of his technique and in terms of all those
but
things.
that's next category. So
Pretty plain musical playing, pretty lackluster vocals. It's got to be a low score.
it does.
Like just to be fair, I'm thinking like in maybe the lower threes.
I could give him a 3.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
okay with a 3.
let's do a three.
Terry Riley, on the other hand, like as an accomplished classical musician, is above average in his musicianship.
Now here is where we get interesting. Okay,
But
you're not wrong. You're not wrong
mhm,
that, but in terms of instrumental talent, out of the three albums we particularly listened to, what percentage of that is Terry Riley playing?
that's a great question. I assume for NC he was conducting,
Yeah,
or I mean, to the extent that a piece like that can be conducted, maybe he was like maybe he was the keyboard pulse at that point. I
that
I
it's got
don't
to be
know.
talked about because listening to those, they did not sound like one person creating music where like I can pick up on who's playing what. I can't
Right.
see who's playing what. There's no real personnel listings. It's very clear that it's not just him. It's a group of
Oh, for
people,
sure.
and
Yeah, obviously.
he's liminally involved.
Right. All of these compositions are groups. I assume he played the organ on Organum for Stefano. I mean, he is an excellent piano player by all accounts, and
Yeah.
he made his living that way for a long time, while making these compositions. So I don't know. I can't give him a below average score because of what I know about his skill as a musician. Um,
Yeah.
but I could understand not giving him an above average score based on like who is playing on these records is the um ability of the player the main thing of importance on the compositions that he writes all the time. I'd say not really. It's more like about the ear and the feel of the player than pure skill and ability to play anything that's in front of them. I don't know. I could sit at a 5.
Yeah, like I just think that that's probably the way. It's hard because it'd be so easy to just give it because he's known as a piano player, he's known as
Mhm.
an organist, and like but we didn't actually hear it other than maybe I almost
Yeah,
assuredly
I'm
in
sure.
Organum.
Yeah.
I agree with you there because it's definitely him singing.
Hmm.
I mean, unless they found another old man.
I don't think so.
If like it wasn't just him
Yeah,
singing,
let's
why
get
would
some other 87-year-old guy who studies classical Indian music
so,
to chant over this.
yeah, so it's him singing at that or singing or vocalizing at that. But yeah, I mean, I think realistically for fairness we give him a 5 with the acknowledgement between us and the audience on this recording that it's not for lack of talent on his part, it's lack of what we got to listen to.
Sure. That's totally fair. Songwriting is the last excellent category for both of these artists because they're just both so incredibly original in
Yeah.
what they were able to produce, and they both invented techniques in songwriting that were pretty much groundbreaking and taken on by everyone who came after them. I think personally, as much as I love Eno's ambient stuff, the pure creativity and variety of different spaces brought together is more impressive from Terry Riley. And I would give him the edge here. But I think both of these artists obviously have to score pretty well in this category.
Yes. Okay. I agree with you on both counts. Now, just like I did in Cultural Impact, I just need to remind us all of the other pillar with which we use to judge this, which is listenability. We have often said it is it's a balm that covers many a plain wound where it's like if it's a catchy fucking hook, man, it makes up for a lot of bad. And if it's a really flat hook, it destroys a lot of good. It's been the argument. There's no hook here. This is a hookless album. This is a hookless week. There's no hooks, there's none of that. It's a completely different judging style, which means how do we honor the fact that we can't honor that entire method of scoring?
Yeah, I don't know. It's also it's the pillar that you care most about and I care least about. Or
It's not
not that
even
you
that
care most about, it's that
yeah.
you care the most about between the two of us.
Well, because one of us has to.
Because one of us, yeah,
Because one of us has to represent the person who listens to music to listen to music and for with no other ulterior
mhm,
motive. Like
right.
and for both of these artists, you kind of have to have an ulterior motive to listen.
I mean, I listened to NC. I've been listening to that for years with
Okay. With for
or
what reason?
because I enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
not the
Well,
only
what do
Terry
you enjoy
Riley
about it?
album I listen to.
What do you enjoy about it?
I enjoy listening to the concept of it. I enjoy the musicians' interpretations of it. I enjoy the atmosphere of it.
You're listening with an ulterior motive other than music sound good in ear.
I have a hard time listening to music that way anymore. I can't
Sure.
not analyze it. I
But
can't like there's
I
part of my brain that's always
and I
working on
fully
that
get
level.
that. And I'm just reiterating that you are not the average person because of that. So I'm trying to speak for the average person, which, is tougher in episodes like this, but, is no less important. Like
Sure.
the average listener would be completely lost with both of these artists. They just would be.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's okay. Like if
Mhm.
I went to my, Christmas party, in a few days, and I'm like, hey guys, turn off the Sinatra. We're putting on Terry Riley's in C. I'm gonna get kicked out of Christmas. I'm
They're
gonna
gonna
get
which version?
yeah, you're right. You're so right. Um, all that to say, like, it's not a knock or a besmirchment on either artist or the compositions, which are incredibly creative and, technological in their composition. It's just to say that there's a whole part that they're just not even attempting to reach. And there should be some slight repercussion to that.
Okay.
That's all. I'm
I
not
under
saying
yeah.
it's going to lower them from, a 10 to a 4 or whatever,
Right.
but it's definitely going to lower them a little bit.
Understandable. Um, let's just start with Riley because I think he's the higher score.
I think so too.
I, and I again, I he is like one of the great composers of the 20th century. Like we're
Hmm.
talking about to the albums that we listen to, we're talking about like his invention of minimalism, his use of experimentation and technology, but we're also talking about compositions on instruments like the organ, as well as creating a bunch of different string quartets. He's also composed a variety of like chamber and orchestral music. He's won a bunch of awards for his classical compositions, and he also like pioneered electronic music on some of his other albums. Um, like I think it's if we took out your pillar of this, he'd have to be at least in the nines as a composer.
Okay. Yeah. I
So my
get what you're saying.
question to you is like where when we factor that back in, where do you want to be?
I think I'm going to be extremely. What's your number if you didn't factor it?
9.3.
Okay. I'm going to be so nice to Nick. I think I'm going to be more than fair here.
Please.
I think we give him an 8.3.
Okay.
I think 1 point for the entire part of music that the average listener would enjoy not being there is more than fair.
I'll allow it. And then we come to Brian Eno. And again, most of the same arguments apply. I just think to a slightly lesser extent. Um,
Yeah.
I'd based on that other score, I'd give him like a 7.3.
And I think that's fair. I was going to say he's probably a point under Riley because his stuff is just a hair less like foundationally interesting.
Yeah, and I think it just
Foundationally
explores different
revolutionary.
places. Like
Yeah.
I don't think Brian Eno's ever like put together music that is by design completely different piece every time it's ever performed, which still like boggles my mind.
No, it's a very unique thing. I can't wait for Low Totems in C.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. And you can do some like classical Indian vocalizations over it.
I will study neurotically to make sure that that's not some type of horrific cultural appropriation on my
Of
end, like
course.
half-assing it.
Right.
I would never do something like that unless I was putting my whole ass into it.
Yeah, 100%. You know, performance a performance.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, 100%. And that's
Okay.
something that listen, just off on a quick tangent.
Yeah, please.
That is something that was truly born to me from learning how to sing in other languages. Because Nick and I met in college, we met in the vocal performance uh, path at our college, and learning how to sing in other languages was one of those things where it was like it's so much more than the vowel sounds. You have to fully understand and appreciate the way that they're writing, the style that they're writing in. And some are significantly harder than others. I mean,
Sure.
just impossibly. I mean, I to this day can't sing in French. I can't do
Oh
I,
god.
it is so difficult to do.
I always like German the best.
Well, German I think is maybe the most approachable other than
For
English.
native English speakers.
Yeah, for native English speakers because there's just a lot of the hard percussive
Yeah.
intonation, which is just not in French. It's just there is no
No
consonant.
consonants.
It's just you start a phrase with a consonant, and you're lucky if you end with one.
Right.
All right, all
Okay.
that to say, X Factor.
Well, are we just totally skipping poetic? I mean, for Terry Riley, it's a 0.1. For Brian Eno, he did have some lyrics
You're right.
sometimes
You're
that
right.
I think warrants more than a 0.1.
You're right. That's fair. All right. It is a point one for Riley. We got that out of the way. Eno, I mean, it's definitely below average.
Yeah, there's
Even
just
though
not that much.
there's just not that much, even though it's a vast number of albums. We mentioned that they're like uh his Forever and Ever No More signified his long return or his
Mhm.
long waited return to vocal music. There was a ton of instrumental in the
And it's
middle.
not like there was much in the way of vocals on that.
No. I mean, the vocals that were there were quite frankly not as inspired as the rest of the pieces, in my opinion.
Hmm.
That coupled with the limited quality of them, maybe a one, maybe a one.
One it is.
Yeah,
Got it. I'm going to start by giving each of them a 2 for X Factor for inventing a genre of music.
yeah, I think that's correct.
Are
That's
there any
well
things
established precedent.
you would like me to add for Brian Eno?
No, there's not. I mean, nothing that we haven't already touched on, and nothing that would require more points than the two he's already gotten for creating a genre of music.
Sure. Um, as far as Terry Riley's concerned, I mean, I've been talking about his musical experimentation. I mean, he did kind of like co-invent delay, or like what he called time lag accumulator at the time, with a sound engineer he was working with.
I mean, that's
Um,
pretty awesome.
yeah, I think so. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's got like a bunch of all the like things to classical, all the awards that classical people can get. Um, I don't know that we need to really add anything in new for that. A lot of his music has also been featured in like film, and in Grand Theft Auto 4, just in case you were one.
I mean, there's always a chance. I mean, I
Yeah,
will say Brian Eno has a spider named after him,
that's pretty cool.
and also one of the most influential Greek rock bands of all time. That's not Mora Fotia or Fotia.
Okay.
No, no guarantee that that's the right pronunciation. Just throwing that out there.
No.
But it translates to Babies on Fire, which is named after Brian Eno's song Babies on Fire from Here Come the Warm
Excellent.
Jets. Just fun.
Excellent. I don't know. I like, I'm interested in maybe adding something for like the time lag accumulator invention, on top of the 2, but it depends on how much you think would be appropriate there.
I mean, if you want to give like a point one or point two, I don't think it's going to make a difference in the scores, if I'm guessing.
Yeah, they're close, but
They're
I'll give them
close,
a point
but
2.
I don't think a point one or
I
point
mean,
two change it.
what that becomes, like the idea of delay. I mean, who doesn't use
Yeah.
delay?
It's
Everybody uses delay.
Odelay, Odelay.
Yeah. Okay, I got final scores.
Okay.
And winning this week's episode
Wow, 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 wow.
with a 29.6 is Terry Riley. And in second place with a 27.2 is Brian Eno.
Yeah, two scores that highlight more the limitations in our grading system than the artists themselves.
For sure.
And that's all it is.
Yeah, to instantly lose an entire category of 10 for
Yeah.
poetic talent for artists, that's really just not part of what they do.
No, I mean it's rough. It's one of the things that is the most interestingly challenging when trying to compare every artist that ever lived. There's a reason not everybody does. There's a reason most people strongly limit their comparisons, because it's a lot easier to compare NSYNC versus the Backstreet Boys than Oasis versus Brian Eno. Like,
Yeah, exactly. You can almost think like, oh, wow, they only got in the high 20s. Well, think of it out of 40 instead of 50, and
yeah,
knowing how strict graders that we are. That's pretty
yes,
damn good.
I couldn't agree more. All right, Nick.
Well,
This was a fun one.
it
This
was.
a fun one. A
And
nice
next week, we're going to totally break the mold of this experimental stuff that music students want to listen to, and do an episode all about artists that are like, super popular with like music students and kids who go to music school.
And all of a sudden, your comment from earlier makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
I did put it together then, but
Yeah.
now it makes a lot
Yep.
more sense too.
Yep. Pat dropped an Easter egg for an artist we are covering next week. So
Yeah, Nick, do you want to mention at the very end of this episode because we did not mention any of the party hat version of this at all, the seminal episode, or
Oh yeah. I was thinking when I said that,
were you
wait, let me
wrong?
double check. We did a
Was this guy
season
wrong?
we did a season 6.5 and a season 7.5,
This
which
guy was
means
wrong.
Pat, episode 200 passed us 4 episodes ago.
Hold on. Who was it?
It was the Platters and the Coasters was episode 200.
All right. Great for theme. Great for a great theme episode.
Indeed.
But also, I'm disappointed. Keith, good thing he didn't have the party hat
Yeah,
on because
because
it was
like we
way
passed episode 200. This was episode 204.
a, a much
We
more monumental episode.
Yeah, way more. Like we have covered at minimum like 6 to 700 different artists at this point. Somewhere between,
That's
because the first 5 seasons were all 3.
We're 3 artists each.
So that's 25 times 5 is 125 times 3 is 375, 376 for the episode where we did all 4 Beatles individually. So then you add on to that 2 full seasons of 50 artists. That's 100. So that's 476. And
there was also probably another 15 or so that we did because we did full non-linear episodes that didn't count towards the season total.
Yeah, right.
What has now been kind of replaced by the half seasons.
Yeah.
Used to be just like released non-linears
Right.
that covered artists.
Yeah. Long story short, we've listened to a lot.
Yeah, we have a whole
lot of stuff.
And still think one of our best decisions we made was going from 3 artists down to 2.
Yeah.
The head-to-head comparison of it all is much stronger than the chaos of 3 artists.
It is.
It was too much. It was too
Indeed.
much.
I was like, who would we have even included as a third artist on this episode to like balance things out?
Bjork.
Well, we've already done Bjork.
Did I fucking stutter? Bjork again.
Bjork
round 2.
Say Bjork again. They speak English in Bjork? No, they do not.
All right. Well,
Okay.
all that to say, a great wrap up to episode 204. Here's to 204 more. And listen.
Okay.
And by listen, I mean go listen to music. Any music, it's very important. And quite frankly, is not being supported enough in the modern day.
Indeed.
Especially in your local schools.
Engage with art. It's the only thing that makes being alive worthwhile.
Correct. Could not agree more. And if you don't agree, clearly
you're in the wrong place.
Everything is art. TV is art. Movies are art. Books are art. Music is art. Art is art.
That's correct.
And have a great day. Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
What a roller coaster of emotions.
It really was.
All right. Let's see. I'm pulling up next week. Should we because here's the thing about the next 2 Thursdays.
They're holidays.
They're Christmas and New Year's Day.
Yeah. Yeah, that you're correct. And I'm telling you right now, 0% chance you're getting me in like the morning on New Year's Day.
Yeah, I'm aware.
No.
So we should do a different day.
Yeah. Maybe that's
I gave you interesting. Of the 2 from the next episode, I'm kind of surprised who has who.
Interesting.
It looks like you have are we still live? Does it matter? No one's listening.
We are still. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but
you
are still live.
Yeah, you have Wolf, and I have Jacob.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but intrigued.
I'm also surprised. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. All right, now hold on. I have to look at their discography page because there's something that's really important that you can't miss.
Okay.
Where is it? Okay. I'm going to send it in this chat.
Okay. That is a good spot.
That didn't work.
I can see that you're typing.
Okay. No, no, no. I don't know why it's not copying. Oh, I'm hitting. You know what? I got used to my fucking PC at work.
Welcome to the club.
There you go. It is the album Sleepify.
Okay.
So there's no way you cannot talk about it. It's a 5 minute long album
Oh yeah.
that's
I'm with
entirely silence that they put out specifically so that their fans would
you.
all
Mhm.
sleep to it over and over and over and over again, get so many streams and make so much money from Spotify that they could fund their tours with it.
Truly genius.
Indeed. Spotify
Well,
did not care for this.
oh, I wonder why. I wonder why the big business didn't like having their money stolen from them.
Yeah,
Fascinating. No, I did know about this, and I believe from you and Alex both were talking
probably.
to me about this at one point.
Yeah.
Um, but I also know why I have this band, and it's because of one of the singers, because I love one of his solo songs.
Antoine Stanley.
No.
Oh,
Not
Theo Katzman.
Theo Katzman.
Well, I mean, who doesn't?
I know. I
So
know. That song that's a song that is always 18 seconds away from being fully stuck in my head.
yeah, yeah, it's in mine now.
Yeah, it's in mine now too. So we're suffering together.
That's okay.
All right. All that to be said, I'm gonna go.
Very good.
'Cause I
We'll
smell food and I'm hungry.
excellent. We'll figure out a day
We'll figure
while
out a
we're
day.
all off.
We can. I would say let's look towards the first weekend of January, like third, fourth
Sure.
range. We'll figure out a good time.
Yep, I got nothing going on, and Jackie works that weekend. So
Cool. So perfect. We'll figure out a good time then. All
excellent.
right.
Okay, see you.
Adios. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. This was fun as always. And stay safe out there. Happy holidays.